This is a Heart and Hand production.
Good evening, it's Martyn Ramsay here with my good friend Adam Thornton. You've needed a new Rangers show in your lives. There just aren't enough out there, but at least this one is purely visual. Hardly any hair on either head. Worth the fuck. But it's good to be here to talk about all things Rangers and indeed the wider parts of the sport, looking at the current, Adam, the past, me, and both of us trying to make sense of what might be around the corner. This is the Rangers Prism. Adam, we kind of realised that we talk a lot about Rangers, but very rarely on air. There needs to be a kind of national emergency before the two of us are on the same flagship together. Obviously, don't do press together. And it would be nice just to chat about the Teds for a short period of time before the weekend actually kicks off. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Yeah, sometimes you've got, I have a lot of thoughts that I frequently get out there, but sometimes it's good just to not have a plan, I guess, and it's not, oh, let's do a tactic show on this specific thing, or let's do yourself time capsule or whatever on a specific game from the past. Let's just have a little place where we can each bring a point or two each. It's not going to hit anywhere near an hour. It should be short and snappy. We'll get through. I think both of us probably fall into that category of why say one word when you can say 300, but we'll try our best.
We'll do our best.
Keep a lid on it. But yes, just a nice little place for the two of us to chat football. Yeah.
Where are we then? This is a silly season. This is not a season for serious people. We should not be talking about a title race, and yet we are. There should not be three teams in a Scottish title race, and yet there are. Where are we right now? We're in an upswing this week because we won at the weekend, and the sun's coming out, and spring is just about to spring into action. The weekend before, not quite. It's going to be quite up and down, I think, between now and the end of the season. It's going to fluctuate like all hell.
Definitely, yeah. I think it's nip and tuck. I think we're in a good place. I think we're in a great place compared to where we were September, October time for sure. I took some great heart from the January transfer window in terms of the type of players that are coming in. It felt like we were on the curve, if not ahead of the curve, in terms of what modern football is doing. We know how physical the Premier League is now. Always really has been, but I think more so now. Usually in Scotland, we're a bit behind the curve, and we'd be looking at the ball players, we'd be looking at the smaller players when other teams are hulking up, if you like. So the signings that we brought in January to me felt like really modern players that are going to come in, be physically capable, can run, can tackle, can press, can hopefully score enough goals for us to get there. So what I would say is I'm trying my best not to get too up or too down on anything, because I do think that's three teams that are not perfect by any means. I also think we aren't used to this. We talk a lot, and we have spoke a lot. There's an example down south, I think, of a season can be okay, and the champion can still be the champion. Overall, it may not be not every season needs a team to sweep all before them for them to be a good team or a worthy champion, or do a treble, or have a huge end-to-end title battle that culminates in a final day drama. It's perfectly okay to be the champion at the end of an okay season, and for it to still be a success. We are used to dropping points being a catastrophe. This season, I think it has been proven that multiple dropping points is not going to end in a catastrophe. So yeah, it's an interesting time, I think, overall. I think we're definitely in the ascendancy as a squad, like I said. Whether or not it's enough to get us there, I don't know. But for once, I'm just sort of trying to take it as it comes.
Good luck with that. It's Yeah, that's all very sensible, but I'm just not convinced we can kind of live like that. It's three sides with their issues, none of whom, I mean, literally no player that I can think of has experience of going to the wire and winning. Martyn has experience of going to the wire twice, but unsuccessfully. And players talk all the time about how different it is to win a title comfortably and have the thing pretty much wrapped up post Christmas, and it go into that nip and tuck absolute weekend by weekend. That's just a different ball game. So I think that's going to play into it a lot. Our away form is my big worry in terms of how we turn up there. I think we've really got it tight at home. I really enjoy what we do there. And I think we'll be top of the league at the split just because of the way the fixtures are. But Rangers are going to have to show something different, I think. And given what the split is almost certainly going to throw up. But weekend at a time, Adam. Well, that's the other thing, by the way. Huge, condensed, busy time over Christmas and the winter. And I understand fans' frustration with the team he picked at Fir Park compared to what looked like pretty much the strongest team on Sunday. And why can't you just do that? Well, we don't see these players. We don't know the health and well-being of every one of them. That's no longer a thing now. I would hope that there's no midweek game until May. It's pretty much best team every week.
Yep, I would certainly hope so. And I think I made that point on Rangers Review last week that we demand to know everything. I think at all times, modern football fans, and sometimes it's just not possible. Sometimes nobody wants to hear that it's been a difficult period. We're integrating new players. We're integrating players that haven't played a lot. We're integrating players that maybe have been recovering from fitness, players that have been playing at a level that is not as demanding in some instances. So yeah, I think that's all fair enough. And fans ultimately aren't really bothered about it. But surely that should be gone for just now. So I appreciate. I know you always like the patterns and history potentially repeating itself. I am hopeful that the away aspect of it is a little bit of a red herring, or it's based on players that maybe won't be focal points moving forwards in this season. I think we'll come on to the topic on everyone's lips tactically is the Red Bull aspect of what Daniel Röhl is doing. He obviously is a coach who was schooled in that. He's worked under 2 or 3 managers that have worked with that type of philosophy. I have a sneaking suspicion that what we've seen against Hearts will certainly be the physical makeup of the team. And most of those players that played will and should be in the starting 11, and maybe some of the players that either didn't play or come off the bench to impact will have that as their role in the short term, and that's perfectly okay as well.
That Red Bull model is your topic for the week, I think.
Yes.
You're toying with something at the moment, not quite completed, but your thoughts on that and where we fit into that.
Yeah, so the good thing about this little space that we're hopefully carving out for ourselves is that my I don't think my ramblings are ever fully formed, but my ramblings, shall we say, that maybe don't merit a full podcast, or maybe due to busy lives, I can't always get podcasts done in the same time scale as maybe others can. So it's good to just have a little bit of a space to say, here's some things I've found interesting. So obviously the Red Bull Rangers is a topic on everyone's lips. I do think this will be the template more often than not going forwards. That doesn't mean things won't change, but I think from what the manager has said consistently, fix the defense, make the marginal games have a huge impact, and then I think without being able to say that, because it's a little bit disrespectful, get me to January and get me some players in that can make a difference. That's all done now. That's all there. You would hope. I think we're going to start to see this more often. for sure. It looked like the game at the weekend. It looked like a team with a plan. For me, it looked like a Rangers performance. It looked like a Rangers team. The physical makeup, we spoke about it, the sheer size of Rangers compared to most teams in the league now, for sure. It is something. And I think we'll see this more often. I think there are a few flaws in it, or there are a few areas where we're still trying to compensate. We can't fix everything. We know that. But I think this setup that he's landed on, this 4-2-2-2, is a classic Red Bull thing. That is, I mean, it's. I don't even know if classic Red Bull is a thing at this minute, given it's only really been on the go for a decade or so. But it's a.
You
it's
mentioned
a
landed on there, Adam. Is it fortuitous? Is it serendipitous, or is this where you think he was kind of
No, I think
always
this
kind of
is.
planning to move to?
I think this is where he was planning to go. I really do. The players that were signed in the summer, some of the signings were baffling for a supposed possession manager. In that sense, they probably fit what we now have more than they did that. But some of them are not perfect fits for either. I think it's safe to say. But no, I think this has been in the plan, in the works for sure. That Daniel Röhl has worked under Hansi Flick. He's worked under Ralph Hasenhüttl. He's spent time, obviously, a lot of time in Germany. This model of gegenpressing, counter pressing, attacking the last line, the pressing, the counter pressing. This is all things that he will have grown up on as a coach, and obviously as an assistant, he's had a clear understanding of how these things work. And I think this will be what he sees as a very relevant thing for Rangers. There are quite a few interesting aspects to it, which I won't bore people with the technicality of it, but ultimately it's just about getting your good players into a position in the centre of the box or in front of the box, trying to create that sort of midfield four, if you like, with two central midfielders and two number 10s to an extent, but it can be very flexible. We've seen with Andreas Skov Olsen playing as a right-sided number 10 in the game at the weekend, but you look at him for the Chermiti's second goal, peeling off to the right, finding that space, just that crucial second that he needs with the Hearts switch to a back five, and just that little momentary confusion, if you like, that he was able to float into a space and put in a incredible ball in for Chermiti to better it with his header. We talk about it. We talk about formations. We talk about tactics as defined things that shouldn't really change. But I think that shows that within this tactic, there will be the structure. They can go to two wingers. They can go to three at the back if they need to. They can go one up top and one deep. But I guess where I'm trying to get to with it is the makeup of the team that we have. I think we're really, really well suited to this 4-2-2, if you like. 4-double. I keep saying that because I think 4-2-2-2 is just a little bit too much. I think we're really suited to it, and I think the players that we've brought in will really help us. Ryan Nadiri, I think, is going to be key to this for me, because up until the weekend there, I possibly still thought Nadiri and Chermiti together. I don't know if I can see that, because it looks weird. It looks mad to 6.5 foot players playing together. You don't see very much of that as two focal points. But I think what Nadiri does, he does really, really well. He'll drop off, he'll press, he'll initiate contact, he'll run the channels. Chermiti will be more of that sort of Yusuf Poulsen, if you like, at Red Bull Leipzig, where it's less about what you can do between the posts. You can still contribute, as we've certainly seen in a couple of games so far this season, but it's more about that first contact. It's more about aerial duels, winning the ball, getting the team up the pitch. There was a really good point made on Twitter by one of the guys on there who said his aerial duel success rate is really, really similar to Yusuf Poulsen. He's playing a similar role to how he did at Red Bull Leipzig, and I think that's really interesting, because that again speaks to, it's not just we're going to play 4-2-2-2 because this team play it. It's like, okay, well, what's the roles, what's the profiles? So I think the front two are going to be huge. I think it's going to be one who plays up, and that's the first man. He's the point of contact. We're going to have Ryan Nadiri, who drops deep and can link play. We're going to have those two number 10s, like I mentioned, Mikey Moore or Kasama, a ball carrier profile on one side, and then maybe more of a creator on the other side. So whether that is Skov Olsen, whether it's Oliver Antman, whether it's Bayrami, someone who you would like to think is able to get on the ball and make things happen. So there's very distinct profiles that are appearing that I think are really interesting. I'll dig into it in more detail on Heart and Hand on Patreon when we have a look at it in an article as well. But I think that sort of front four, if you like, is going to be really interesting to see how that develops. Obviously, it is all dependent on players staying fit, players being in form, players like Chermiti turning up in lesser games than the two big games that he's managed to turn up in so far. But I do think there's cause for optimism, and I do think there's cause for excitement with some of the new players that have come in, and this little tweak at the same time. It does feel like stars are aligning a little bit, and we're going to be able to go on and hit the next level.
Couple of questions from me, I guess. Chermiti, he has been at his best in big games, okay, but also the change at halftime at Parkhead, we just had players closer to him. The way that team immediately set up, whenever you saw it, whenever it came through the WhatsApps or whatever on Sunday, you're like, oh, wow, okay. There's going to be players closer to him. I don't think he can be as isolated as he's been. I think it's too much. But if you get guys close to him, I think he does come alive. I think he can come alive. And is that, well, I think you've kind of answered that. But that's key, right, to getting the best out of him. He needs people around him.
He does, and that's why I don't think, I mean, with all the context of everything for sure, but the game at midweek wasn't the right team for me. Because of that, I understand there would be limitations, but if you're going with that sort of flatter midfield three, and you're relying on your Raskin and Diamandis getting forward, as they did for the goal, but I don't think the front three is one that really grabs a game by the scruff of the neck and gets things going in that game. So absolutely, this formation, this tweak, this approach will 100% get more players on that last line, attacking the last line. The width will come from the fullbacks, which is huge as well. Certainly, Tour Romans has.
I was going to come to that.
Everyone,
he's
excited everyone.
Yeah, I'm ready to love again for sure, and it's just kind of ready-made, hitting the
It's
ground
decisions.
running.
It's
exactly that, which has been a real drawback on Rangers teams who have had decent players and they've shown this, they've shown that, but the decision making is infuriating. He's very decisive. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's got an engine that can carry. Now that 4-2 thing, I think the first time I saw anything like that must have been Brazil in
98,
USA 94. Yeah, I know. I don't know how different that is in terms of the intensity and the mobility of the modern game, and not an American World Cup, which is absolutely sweltering. But who did motor were obviously Cafu and Jorginho. It was all built on absolutely marauding fullbacks. We don't have the balance of that, I don't think, on the right, but
no,
just in terms of what Tav's got left in his legs, and but does it just need one?
Yeah, I guess it does. I guess it still provides that balance that we need when we get caught on those counter attacks. So I think in an ideal world, it would be excellent if you had a right-sided Tour Romans or a James Tavernier of 5 years ago, and something like this to do that Cafu and Roberto Carlos thing would be excellent. The Brazil one, I mean, on the ball, sure, and this is where I think these things are really, really fascinating. Theirs came out of having too many options up front, and how can we fit them in? Not so much with the off-ball counter attack, pressing, all that sort of stuff. It's wasn't really a Brazilian thing at that time, but it's similar for sure. What I think we will see more of is maybe what we've seen at the weekend, and it maybe wasn't the best example of it, is Nico Raskin stepping into defence quite a lot, because it's risk and reward. Everything needs a balance. So if you're adding another attacker in the last line, you're going to need to have someone somewhere that is behind the ball. If Dujon Stelling is going to be as high, if Tour Romans is going to be as high, it's only natural. You need a double defensive midfield, and you probably also need one of them to step back into defence to help just give that balance.
So that works in this system, but his over inclination to do it in the previous was counterproductive because we were too stodgy then and he just got in the way. Whereas he would have a job to do there rather than I need everything to flow through me, give me the ball, and he's just kind of far too deep at starting that.
Because you seen at the weekend as well how we basically just vacated the midfield. Raskin sat back, Chukwueze would go wide. Hearts are very strong in the midfield. We just vacated and we said okay. So that is when that works. What doesn't work is him stepping in there and then trying to make passes into himself, if you like, in the way that maybe a John Lundstrom used to as well. And you're already playing more defenders than is necessary, and you add another one in, it doesn't work. So I think in theory that should work. Whether Nico Raskin is the right man for that, I know there's lots around that in terms of for me, he seems to be in the minority of seeing himself as that number 6, and not a lot of other people do. Whether or not that is something that may change in the summer, and we bring someone else in there to do that, that may be one of those next evolutions on it that I mentioned. Yeah.
And it helps that nearly everyone is available and fit. I mean, by Rangers standards, the kind of Ross Hall bench is not entirely overflowing, which is great. And what it does mean, I hope, and I think we saw it on Sunday, definitely saw it on Sunday, is that those young, exciting potential players like Gassama, like Ant-Man, who we were relying on doing absolutely everything as ready-made, peak of their career professionals, which is insane, especially at a club like this, are now able to do something very, very valuable, which is come on late when games are stretched and space is there, and it's not all on them to do things from the get-go. And I think you'll get more out of them at this stage of their career. That's my hope anyway. So we're full of hope getting into the weekend. I still need to see more within that structure. As much as I like it, I still need to see more leadership come into the fore. Starting on Sunday, which should be routine, but we have nothing routine at this moment other than home form. We need to make that happen. You win those battles before you do. We'll see. I will try in the week that was just throw in a little callback to Rangers history in the week that has just passed. I know you love the very old days, Adam, so I was going to go 1893 and our first ever win against Celtic that took place this week. I know you love trivia, so we're going to talk about our first floodlights in 1967. Or I was going to pick a game that I actually quite loved, which is 1999 when we beat Dundee 6-1 at Ibrox on the Saturday. Absolutely brilliant performance. I think Gio scored an absolutely perfect goal, and putting the pressure on Celtic, who went to Motherwell, I think 1-6-0 or something, 5-0, whatever. But it was an enjoyable Saturday afternoon. However, I'm not going to go that far back at all, which seems like about 20 years, but it's only just the 4, which of course was the 17th of February 2022. You and I were both there, Adam, in the Westfalen Stadion for Rangers' greatest night in Europe, away from home, greatest performance away from home. I would suggest a ridiculous evening. I mean, there were issues with the flights and the time that we went, and not a lot of sleep was had. I was beginning to think I was delirious, even taking pictures of the scoreboard at 4-1. And yeah, it was such a surreal occasion. And we forget that Dortmund probably should have taken the lead, did a good chance before we scored, and you're like, God, you're just waiting for that one to drop. And remember, VAR is very much in its infancy. I think was this the season it was introduced in Europe. It feels as if it was. And with that corner, and I was on press, as if Davey and I are putting out a newspaper the next morning. I was on media. You were on a hospitality trip, I think, which was very annoying. I'd put my hand up for media. But Nick Thompson, obviously, the club was just behind me. and he kind of thought there was a handball somewhere. I hadn't seen it at all. And then obviously we were getting the VAR, which is quite exciting. And he was adamant, and obviously it was, and we were ahead, and then somehow Morelos finds himself with about 2 inches from goal, and he's got an empty net, and you're like, what on earth is happening? The second half performance, I think was quite mature. The reason I bring it up, and it's a bit of a hobby horse of mine, but it fits in, I guess, to what we've kind of been talking about, that stodginess at home, that overly reactive thing that has cost us titles, cost us a title that season. I don't think you can have both. I just don't think Scottish teams can be remotely successful in Europe and run over the top, dominate at home, be so open because you know you're going to rack up 4-5 and whatever else, but you get your pants pulled down, and it's such a tricky balance for Rangers and Celtic to strike, kind of going forward. Can it be struck, or does it have to be one or the other? And of course, at this moment in time, we'd prefer domestic success for a while. I'm sure we could all live with that for a few years at least. But that means taking that handbrake off and not being so comfortable at being reactive.
Yeah, I think there's a few sides to it. I think ultimately, although we are spending money like it's going out of fashion this year, I don't think we've been in a situation until now where we were really able to do that. Because that's what it would need. That's what we did under Advocate in those first 3 seasons, where we were able to balance both to an extent. Not to anywhere near the levels I guess that we've seen in this run that you're talking about, but I think it comes down to that, and also I think it probably comes down to just that variation of challenge that we have. Facing teams that will sit in against you. And I have to say, in the last couple of years, that is changing a lot. Look at Motherwell passing us off the park.
Which
So that
is maybe
is
no bad thing, even though it can
no,
get a bit hairy. We've got to make the most of that space and that kind of openness. But they definitely do smell blood, right? Obviously,
they do
given how the top 4 looks at the moment.
absolutely do. Hibs they've always been one to come out and have a go. Certainly at Easter Road, but more so here at Ibrox as well. Hearts. So there are quite a lot of teams that want to come out and play. Some of them it's quite enjoyable when they do, and you can obviously pick them off. But there's less. I mean, I remember feels like only yesterday Motherwell were coming and playing that 5-5-0 formation against us, which was no fun for anyone involved. But you think how far they've came in that. So I think if our league got into a position where it was more competitive as it is this season, and more like that, where teams do come out and smell blood regularly and make really good investment, and the player sales that we've seen getting reinvested and going again and building there, then I think there's an option for it. As things stand, I think it's just too much for where the clubs are at the minute. And as we've seen, we've done start to finish on the Champions League main event. We've done 75 episodes on YouTube over on our other channel. It is a difficult thing for clubs with unlimited money, never mind clubs that deal with what financial challenges that Rangers have compared to Europe's elite. I just think it is a difficult thing. The flip side of it is how many Rangers players over the last couple of years have said we really need that every 3 days challenge of getting up for a game. And yes, we don't get training time, we don't get a lot of recovery time, but we love it. We go again, and that is one of my worries. That how often do we look forward to something? It used to be the winter break. Remember, I was like, get to the winter break and then we'll come back and that'll be great. And things went tits up after it. It would be a very Rangers thing for us now to be into a period where we have no injuries, lots of big physical players, lots of good signings, 1 game a week, and then things to nosedive again, because it just sort of seems like when, like I said earlier on, when stars may be aligning to whoever long, there's usually always something in football or being a Rangers fan that comes and kicks you in the nuts and goes, haha. So there's that's maybe PTSD or scar tissue coming out. But I do think it is a difficult thing. I think you see that. I think winning leagues at the highest level is a monumental thing now. Anyway, certainly in the Premier League, it takes a lot, and it is very, very rare for a team to go the distance in both without something slipping somewhere.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. But yeah, we'll see what I can come up with next week as we look back. Let's kind of look forward, I suppose, to the remainder of this run in and check our cousins down south. Arsenal, Adam, dearie me. I'd quite like them to win this league. I think they've done things quite systematically, patiently. They've tried to build something, cutting their own cloth, blah blah blah. And it's looking as if it's going to go badly wrong yet again. 6 minutes to go at Anfield a couple of weeks ago. They must, like I was, visually putting red and white ribbons on that trophy. It's done. It's 9 points. That's too much.
Yep.
And that gets turned around. A game they're not involved in. They're sitting watching on the telly, and they've been shite ever since. They've been nervy, really, really nervy, really edgy, and that's 2 league draws away from home, but still 2 league draws on the spin. You cannot, both when they were leading. Brentford, I think they were actually quite happy with the draw, but you just cannot be 2-0 up at the worst team in the league and contrive to lose it. How impactful is that? Scoreboard pressure or things that again, not involving you, but you're watching, you're being affected by it. It's like you've already spent the money in a bet and, the team's turned it around, you're left with nothing. Again, it takes a lot of leadership and but it's blinkers really, isn't it? It's just, don't care what they do. Because we're going to face that this weekend, right? We play last, I think, and the weekend's games. It's going to happen. Other weekends, you get the chance to lay down a marker. I think that's really when managers come into their own and say, doesn't matter, you're in front. Blinkers. It's just about our game, but it's easier said than done, I imagine.
It is. And I think that mantra that everyone talks about, one game at a time, it really needs to be. It's about turning up and doing the small things right, doing the building blocks, getting the most out of those marginal gains, doing what you can do. I feel for Arsenal a little bit, I have to say, because that run in 2023, it felt like men against boys, and it was the plucky underdog.
Yeah,
and they were coming and they were playing what was the possession football, the Arsenal football, as it used to be under Wenger. It felt like they were the sort of David against Goliath, if you like, and Haaland just ran over the top of them. I think they spent 18 months or so going a little bit too far the other way and being a little bit too stuffy, too big, too physical. I did think that summer that they had there was really positive in terms of the players that they were getting in. Eze, Gyökeres, Midweeki, it sort of felt like they were adding, if not 100% surefire starters or difference makers, but they were certainly adding players that can come in and contribute. I've been really surprised that Eze hasn't taken on the good early season form, because I think he could be a real difference maker for them in there, especially with Odegaard's injuries and getting back up to speed and all that sort of stuff. The creativity and the guile, I think that they could bring. So that's been really unfortunate in there as well. They look like a team now that aren't firing on all cylinders in the attacking fronts, and also the set pieces are drying up a little bit as well, as it would do, because that is one of those things that is a great marginal gain. It cannot be your full thing. A good defence and good set pieces are great, and it will get you in the conversation, but 99 times out of 100, the team with the best attack and the team that score the most goals are the ones that win. So that's my fear for them. I hope it doesn't transfer up here, because
same principles, right?
I've just been lauding Rangers for adding physicality and adding power, being good defensively and great on set pieces.
But it's balanced. You add it from a Russell Martin Rangers team. that's adding it from zero. And yeah, I would agree. I think Arsenal did just overdo it. I just thought they got it right, and I'm still not absolutely sure and totally confident in this Manchester City. I think something has.
No, I would agree. I think
has
that might be
gone.
their
I think
saving grace.
they've lost that hunger.
That might be their saving grace. I don't recognise Manchester City from even a couple of years ago. That Haaland team, if you like, that I referenced, or the first Haaland team. Given
Yeah,
how quickly time passes, I don't see it. It looks like a manager that has stayed a little bit too long for me. It looks like a manager who has adapted, as he always does, to the way football that is going, but they sort of just feel like another big team now, and maybe even a big team who aren't quite sure of what their identity is anymore. And I think there are some aspects, particularly with that type of manager, I think there are some fundamentals that you need to be.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't really feel like they're there just now, which may end up being Arsenal's saving grace.
The small matter of a North London derby coming their way, City probably putting the pressure on the Saturday night. It's interesting down there. It's going to be interesting here, and well, it's an enjoyable way for me to kick off my weekend speaking to you, my friend. We'll come up with various bits and pieces next week, and if you get any suggestions, listeners, you know where we are in the usual places. Please just let us know. And yep, cheers, Adam.
Thank you. It was yeah, really enjoyable. Like you said, just let us know anything you'd like us to chat about. We can absolutely add it onto the agenda.
Thank you. Enjoy your weekend's football. I hope you do indeed on Sunday. And until next week, bye for now.